Hi everyone, Serena here from Spin and Dye in Texas. I hope you all have had a great start to the week so far. This is week 9, I think, of our quarantine fiber group, and today we are going to be talking about auto wrapping. Now I'm going to preface our entire meeting today with a little disclaimer, and that is art yarn is not always my favorite thing. So because of that, I enjoy auto wrapping, but I am by no means an expert at it. So what I'm showing you is based on the times that I have done auto wrapping. But I do recommend that if you want to take art yarns further, that you do a little bit of research. There's quite a few books out there that will help you learn how to do beehives and tornadoes and all those fun things. This is just to give you a little taste of how easy an art yarn can actually be. The other thing that I will let you know is if you are going to follow along with me, you're going to need your spinning wheel. You're going to need some fiber that you want to wrap around the single that you're going to spin, and you're going to need some roving for spinning. Now, the single that I will be using to wrap is from the silk that I spun from the hankies last week. So I have 2 of these set up. Now, what I have them wrapped on are the mini skein winders that my husband prints on our 3D printer. We sell these, I believe they're up in the Etsy shop right now. So I've actually created, these are center pull balls. I'll pull them off of the ball winder in just a minute. You do not have to have it oriented as a center pull ball if you do not want to. You can just have it just wrapped up in a ball. Just make sure that however you have this secondary fiber set up, it's going to unwind easily and without any work on your part. So you could even technically use thread for this, but I wouldn't use it off of the spool because it can get caught along the edges of those spools, and you want it to be free flowing, excuse me. So I'm going to use these center pull balls. Now I have a bowl that my uncle, actually my great uncle, carved for me for yarn. It's got the hole in it and everything. I'm going to have my balls in here because it's just going to be easier, and it will be on the floor. So you won't be able to see this. I've tried to do a different orientation of the camera a little bit, so you should be able to see what's happening at the wheel, but you won't see the fiber in the bowl. The other thing to keep in mind is this is although it's technically a 2-ply yarn, it really is a single ply because what you're wrapping on, you're doing it as you are spinning your yarn. So it's only going to be plied in one direction. So you may have to think about balance or wet set it when it is completed. And then also, because it's a single, you might want to consider spinning a little bit thicker than you normally do so that it has a little bit more substance. You don't have to. That's just my thoughts. So I am, and I've talked about this before, I'm a naturally thin spinner. And so I always like to pre-draft my fiber if I'm going to be spinning thicker, because I tend to do less. I tend to make it less thin that way. So the yarn that the fiber that I'm using today is a merino, and it's some of the stuff that I've hand dyed. It was a leftover from a coffee dye, and the color kind of comes out on the camera. It's a very, very light mocha cappuccino-y color, probably more cappuccino than mocha. It's the color of my mom's coffee, if that gives you any reference points. So everyone has a very specific way that they do their coffee. And when I was helping my mom out last year, I think, I had to make coffee for her, and I do not drink coffee. And so when I was preparing it for her, she was like, go by the color. If it's this color, that's the kind of coffee I want. Okay, because I never know how much cream or anything to put in. So I'm going to pre-draft this. And like I said, I do pre-draft so that it will spin up a little bit thicker, just because for a single, I prefer it to be, to come out at probably an almost bulky weight. And if I try and do that as I'm spinning, I'm just terrible at it because my fingers are like, no, it needs to be thin and even and pretty. So I'm just going to pre-draft a little bit of this to get us started. It'll just take a minute. We've all been there before with the pre-drafting. We know how it works. And I've mentioned before in our meetings that I am not a huge fan of art yarn because I like things that are practical. The auto wrap is a very practical art yarn. It's funky, it's weird, and it's not so over the top that you then can't work with it. Whether you're weaving it or crocheting or knitting it, you can actually work with it. Whereas with things like the beehive, I absolutely, oh my gosh, my dream, one of my hashtag spinning goals is to do beehives one day because I think they are so cool, so cute, but they're just not practical. If you want to, maybe for weaving they would be, especially if you were using something that had the warp was pretty loose on it, but you know, a wider reed. But for beehives and things, how would you do that on a crochet hook? I just don't know. So I am pretty picky about anything art yarny. Also, I think art yarn sounds a little bit pretentious sometimes, but this one's very fun. It's very practical. And it gives you just a different result every time. It's not something that you're always going to be able to recreate exactly how you want, which is another thing to keep in mind if you're going to start this spin. Make sure that you have enough fiber, if you have a project in mind, that you are spinning enough fiber to actually complete that project. Because if you start it again, it's going to come out different. It might not be so different that they don't look like they are from the same group, but it might actually be different. So spin what you want for a project if you have a project in mind. With this one, I do not have a big project in mind. I just really wanted to use this fiber because it's such a pretty soft color. And I thought it would be a good way to showcase the dye on the silk that I spun last week. So, all right, so that gives me a good place to start. And I'm going to kind of pull this over here, set that over there for a second. And now to deal with my silk. So I have two balls here. That's a whole other story. We'll talk about it in a minute. But I'm going to start, I think, with this bluer one. So I'm going to take it off of this skein winder here. And just pop it off the end. Now I have this nice little center pull. I'm going to drop that in the bowl and set it down between my feet. Now, comfort level on where you want it to be is going to depend on how you spin generally. But I find that if the fiber comes, here, wait, let me tilt this a little bit. If the fiber comes straight up to the orifice, only about maybe 2 inches, 3 inches away from where it's going to actually go into the flyer and onto the bobbin, that's a good place for the positioning to be. You may find that you want something a little bit different. Once you've tried it once, you'll get a better feel on how you want it to look moving forward if you try it again. So to start, and for this, I will be spinning clockwise. It doesn't really matter since I'm not going to apply it with anything, but just so you guys know kind of what I'm doing on this side. I am using a bobbin that tends to make a little bit more noise on this wheel. I apologize if it gets annoying. I was going to use the wooden bobbin, but the color of fiber that I chose, I was afraid it wouldn't show up so well. So I'm going to start this like I would normally start a single. So I'm just running it through my leader. And, oh, and I put my leader on there in the wrong direction. This is what happens when I don't think. I just make silly mistakes that don't really make sense in the real world. Okay. So hopefully some of that squeaking will go down in just a second. So I'm just going to put a little bit on the bobbin, just enough that I have a nice attachment to the leader. I know it's on strong, and just starts feeding down. And all that's doing is just giving me a starting point that you could actually cut off at the end of this and use what comes afterward. So you can see where I have my yarn, my fiber pinched right here, and I have my pre-draft over here. So I'm going to take my silk, it's down there, and I'm going to I try and kind of tuck it in to the roving just a little bit so I can make sure that the hold is good. And I'm going to let it get twisted in there just a little bit, just to make sure, again, that it has that hold. All right, and that's pretty good right there. So I'm kind of looking at I hope you guys can kind of see where the color variation is. So that's what I've wrapped on to my fiber. And this almost looks barber pole, the way it's wrapped so far, and it's about 3 inches. And that's just given me a good place to hold on. Now, and here's the fun part, and here's what makes this so easy. I'm still pinching my fiber, but I'm dropping the silk. The silk is just hanging down naturally. And I'm going to start pulling it in. Okay. Okay. So now I'm not going to touch the silk again. What's happening is it's going to wrap however it wants to wrap naturally. Oh, see, it got too close and you can't really see. Let me pull my bowl just a little bit here. Trying to make it so you guys can kind of see where it hangs and just starts wrapping on. And I'm not controlling the way it wraps on. It's going to wrap on however it wants. It's going to depend on the, see, I'm still going too thin. And I broke it. But it's going to depend on how your secondary fiber was spun, of course, because like this one, you can kind of see I have variations in widths because I was just going kind of funky with it when I was spinning it last week. And so this one, it's going to pool differently. It's going to wrap differently. It also depends on the speed that you're wrapping. That you're pedaling. If you are pedaling very, very fast, then the uptake is going to be very fast as well, obviously. Also, if your brake band has a lot of tension on it, you're going to get very quick uptake, and that's going to give you a different look. If you're pedaling slower, if you have your uptake way, way low, that's going to change what you see going onto the wheel as well, which I do have my uptake almost non-existent on my brake band because I want the wrap that I'm achieving to be kind of funky. So, all right, there we go. So we're just going to keep it going. I'm trying not to go thin here. I really am. Don't get stuck. Don't get stuck. One problem that you will kind of run into with the auto wrapping is because it can be uneven. You might, depending on what wheel you have, it might start to get stuck on your hook. So if you notice that it's pulling at the orifice, just make sure that you keep an eye on those hooks, that your fibers haven't gotten wrapped up there. All right, so I'm gonna let this keep going. And I'm going to try and spin this not super even too, so that I have the same look in both the wrap and the primary fiber that I am spinning. It's going to be a funky one. For me, it'll be very funky. I tend to do straight spin, very even, or as even as I can. When I say very even, I mean as even as I can get, right? That doesn't necessarily mean that it's like mill spun quality even, but I tend to go for that. So this is all a different kettle of fish for me. So here, I've got a fair amount on there right now. And let me see if I can bring this up to the camera so you can, it's not a great shot, but you can kind of see that it's funky, different thicknesses on the end there. That's what's going to keep happening, unless you put your wheel on top of your secondary fiber like I just did. There we go. Get off there. There we are. And it's going to keep going that way. And that's what I really want it to do. Because my uptake is really, really low, I'm hoping to get enough twist that this ends up being strong as a single. I do find singles to not necessarily hold up to what you want them to do if you're going to put them through a really big project. But I'm thinking for this one, it's going to go into a weaving, and I'm not quite as concerned if I use it as weft. I would not use this as warp because it just doesn't have the strength necessary. So, all right, so I'm going to keep going. I'll try and stop in a little bit and show you where I'm at once I have a little bit more on the bobbin that'll show up better on camera. Oh, and another thing that you can do if you want to add some control to how you are wrapping it on, you can adjust how quickly you're feeding your yarn through because it will affect how many times the yarn wraps around, the secondary fiber wraps around before it gets pulled into the orifice. So that's just another option that you have. If you notice that it's kind of looking barber pole on your wheel, that's a way that you can make a personal adjustment to correct it. So I did enjoy the first time I spun auto wrap. I was super excited, and I did it the same way with a silk secondary fiber, but I have seen it done with thread, and the thread is so delicate and even that it gives a very, very delicate look to the final yarn, and it's still fun and funky, but also it's fun, funky, and structured at the same time and simple. It's very strange, but it works. So that's another option that you have. So you can kind of see down here where my fiber is. It's just about an inch away where that secondary silk single is. It's just about an inch, maybe inch and a half away from the orifice right now. And it's just coming straight up from that bowl. And the silk in the bobbin, or in that center pole ball, is all different colors as well. So we should see some variation in that regard too. Oh, so I was telling you the reason why I have 2 balls of silk is an entirely different story. Let me tell you what happened. So Saturday, we were watching a movie, and I was finishing up the silk hankies that I had started last Monday. I had to cancel Thursday's meeting because I was not feeling so hot, and I didn't get a chance to work on them then, so I was trying to get them done because I was thinking I would do auto wrapping tonight. So the movie comes to a pause, and I wasn't paying attention to my spinning because I was paying attention to the movie, and I lost the silk. It just slipped through my fingers. I don't even think it ripped. I think it just went psst, slipped through my fingers and went right onto the bobbin. I could not, for the life of me, find the end that had gone onto the bobbin. 45 minutes, not even lying, of me sitting there scrutinizing with my phone, trying to use it as a flashlight to find that end poking up. Never found it. So I'm looking. I'm like, I said to my husband, I said, Chris, I'm so mad. I just worked on all of this and I can't even find the end. I'm unwinding, like finding little pieces sticking out that I start to unwind. That didn't work. It was a mess. Finally, I thought I found the end. I was so excited. I was like, yes, I found it. I found it. Okay. All I need to do is reattach, keep going. And that's what I did. So then when I was finished and I was winding it off onto the center pole ball, turns out I did not find the end that I thought I had. I just found a part, a loose fiber basically in my silk. And so it just fell apart when I was putting it onto the winders. And I just ended up doing 2 winders instead of 1 because it was easier than trying to put them together. Because how would you find that other end in there? Anyway, but yeah, so that was my big frustration this weekend was I had so much trouble trying to figure out how to get this stupid end for the silk. I could not find, that's only happened to me, I think twice, where I just could not find that end. It was too thin, too packed into the bobbin to find it. And oh, it's so frustrating when that happens. So frustrating. So that is why I have 2 bobbins. You absolutely do not, or 2 balls. You absolutely do not need 2 balls. You can totally do this with 1. And just make sure that when you're spinning, you know where your ends are and you won't run into the same problems I did. So, but it works out because that way, if I end up not needing all of this silk, I have the second ball already set aside and ready to go for a different project, which don't know what I would use it for, but I'll find something. So, and I'm pedaling at a relatively quick speed. I'm definitely not being slow because I want the the silk to spin on there kind of quickly, so I get balls or big chunks in one section and then thinner chunks in another section, but you could definitely spin a little bit slower. And with that, if you notice you're getting a lot of chunks, you want to try and get a different look, you could also adjust your pedaling. So it actually looks pretty cool. I'm going to finish this piece and then I'll try and pull it up so you guys can see it. So I don't know about you guys. I feel like I've done pretty well in quarantine so far. I have kept to all the rules. I wear a mask when I go out of the house. I did not let myself get too disappointed that I'm missing craft show season. Did not let myself get too disappointed that my show that I was supposed to go see got canceled. I have been as good as I can be. However, tonight for dinner, my husband and I had the absolute last of my dad's smoked brisket and barbecue sauce. And that is when I say, okay, we got to get this figured out because I have to be able to go to their town and get some more because I am now completely out. It is not okay. Not okay. Okay. My dad, everyone has like a favorite meal that their mom makes, a favorite meal that their dad makes, whatever. My dad makes the absolute best hot dog relish, the best smoked brisket, and the best barbecue sauce. Like better than you buy in the store. Delicious barbecue sauce. And we have been rationing it out for the last 9 weeks. Going, oh, we have some more brisket in there. No, we better save that. Well, today was the day, and now I have no more barbecue sauce and no more brisket. I'm very upset. So I will be calling him later to put in an order. He might have to ship it to me. And we live in Texas, so that's going to be very expensive because I'm pretty sure it has to be in some crazy dry ice to survive the temperatures. But it is happening. Anyway, so that was my big, oh no, this quarantine has hit my limit. I need my barbecue sauce. I will manage to survive, just not well. Oh, good. I got to another color. Almost done with this end here. And I'm hoping that I've got some real funky wrapping going on. Looks like I do. We'll see. So other than my lack of barbecue sauce, which honestly should be declared a national emergency, I'm not gonna lie. I've had a pretty good week. Wasn't feeling well on Thursday, but that passed rather quickly, which is nice. And then I got through 25, I believe. It might be a couple more than that, of the blankets that I was telling you guys about, the fleece blankets. So in case you don't remember, it's been a couple weeks since I talked about it, I think. I am doing, that's my dog, that's Pickle. He's just wanted to say hello. Either that or he's afraid there's a burglar. Well, no burglar. So I guess he just wanted to say hello. So I absolutely love making the tie blankets because I find them very easy to do. I think our dogs love them, and it helps me to donate to organizations that I really like. So I have a ton of fleece in the house, and then in a couple of months, my husband and I will have a new roommate, and so who's just staying for a little while. And when that happened, what happened here? Whoop. I don't know what happened. Hang on. So in preparation of that, I'm trying to get all of these blankets done. And then also because I want to be prepared this summer or this fall to be able to donate to organizations, because I just have a feeling donations will be a little bit low because of what we're experiencing this spring. So that's weird. I don't even know how that happened. It started pulling up the other end of the center pull ball. Anyway, so normally I do two-ply blankets because that is because they're so warm and nice and seem to be so cozy for the dogs. But I started doing single-ply blankets because I thought that would be really good for puppies, and they could be used more universally year-round here in Texas where it does get so hot. So I have managed to finish 25 or 30, somewhere in there. And I'm super proud of myself for that one because it's been on my list for a couple weeks now. And I wanted to make sure to get it done, first of all, to clean out the room that our new roommate will be in, and then also to make sure that I have them on hand to start donating as soon as the animal shelters start asking for them. So that was my big check off of my list. I'm also hoping to get some more washcloths done this week. I had to walk away from doing that. It gets boring to make squares. It just gets kind of dull. So I had to walk away for a minute, but I hope to get those finished, and then I'll go back to working on hats. Because at least in this area, hats are probably in the order of things to be donated. I could hold off on those. People don't really need a hat around here until maybe October-ish. But you could still wear hats with your shorts. So I'm thinking I will do those last. Because I had started on them. I have a whole, well, you can't see it, it's not in camera, but I have a whole big bag of yarn that I've set aside that I'm like, okay, these will be good for hats. So that is what I worked on craft-wise. I got my yard cleaned up, which was great. And then Sunday, well, not cleaned up, my yard is clean, but we laid down weed and feed and We are trying to handle a sticker burr problem in the backyard because Boomer's fur absolutely, positively loves sticker burrs. If there is a sticker burr within 5 miles, his fur will find it and it's going to hold on tight. Whew, it's a pain. So we're trying to deal with that. But then on Sunday, I think I mentioned last week, I've started working out again. Because I'm bored, honestly. And it's better than sitting on the couch, I guess. But I started working out, and then Sunday, it was absolutely, positively gorgeous outside. I mean, just the best weather you can imagine, especially for Texas. Clear skies, a nice cool breeze, cool in the shade, warm in the sun. I mean, just wonderful. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to take a little walk. I'm going to go 30 minutes, see how far I can go. So I figured I would walk 15 minutes in one direction and then just turn around and come home. Well, I walked to my goal spot where I thought, oh, that's probably about 50 minutes. And it had only been 12 minutes. And so I was like, well, I might as well keep walking and just walk out my last 3 minutes and then turn around. And then as I was walking, I was like, well, maybe I'll walk to that gas station. There's a gas station that's about 1.5 miles-ish from my house. I was like, maybe I'll walk to that gas station. Then I'll turn around and go home. So my 30-minute quick jaunt in the beautiful weather turned into an 1 hour and 15-minute walk. Don't judge me. I walk a slow mile. But an 1 hour and 15-minute, 3.5-mile walk to this gas station and back. Because for some reason I got it in my head that that's just what I had to do. And it wasn't until I got home and then later that night had jumped in the shower and everything that I realized there's a reason why you don't make rash decisions like that on in Texas weather. And it's because you, no matter who you are, but especially me, a redhead, get sunburned so fast. 30 minutes I probably could have survived without getting sunburned. An 1 hour and 15 minutes, I was red as a cherry. I'm still red as a cherry. Thank God for makeup, or you guys would have to adjust the color on your screen to be able to see me and not see a giant cherry bomb. Like, that's how red I am right now. So, got that little reminder about the importance of proper skin protection when going out in the summer. I think maybe being in the house made me forget. I don't know. But I felt pretty dumb afterward. I've lived in Texas a long time, and I should have known better. But, yeah, so I did manage to walk 3.5 miles, which I was incredibly, incredibly excited about. I can't remember the last time I walked that far, but I would put that as probably years and not, it definitely wasn't last week. So I was very excited about that. Not so happy about the sunburn. I've been moisturizing like crazy in the hopes that it doesn't burn forever and will eventually turn into brown and not just stay red for the next 4 days. But we'll see what happens with that. Okay. I forgot to show you guys. So let me see if I can pull this up. Hopefully there's enough on here now that it's going to make a better impression than it did the first time. Yeah, it still looks a little trashy on there, but you can kind of see how you've got different widths happening. You can see the color transition. So it goes blue, purple, and this is like a rusty orange color down, and it's wrapping around. At the end of the video, I will definitely pull it off of the wheel itself so you can really get a look at what I've done. It's such an easy thing to do that you almost don't notice as you're doing it. You forget about the wrap or secondary fiber altogether because you're not really doing anything to it. It's working on its own. all you're doing is spinning your single. There's a lot of resources out there for auto wrapping. If you have a particular spinner that you like best, I recommend looking through their logs and backlogs and whatever, see if they have anything. The book that I read originally before I did the auto wrap the first time was J.C. Boggs, and it's Jacey, J.C. Boggs, not J.C. Anyway, J.C. Boggs' book, Spinning Art Yarn, was where I first learned about auto wrapping and kind of followed her technique the first time around. It's a very basic technique, which is why I say if you have other resources that you prefer, go there. But that is where I kind of picked up on this. And the book has a lot of different techniques in it. I think it's out of print now, but you can get digital copies on Kindle. So just an FYI on that. It's an option for you, especially if you find that you like the idea of trying something out that's a little bit more fun and funky. Because there's other things you can do. You can do tail spinning, which is spinning or lock spinning. You can do the beehives that I talked about, which are definitely one of my goals. There's just so much out there, but it's all dependent. You can add beads, of course. We've all seen those kind of yarns at like Joann's and that kind of thing, but you can spin them yourself. And it's really very interesting, at least to study and know what else is out there, even if you're like me and it's not necessarily techniques that you're going to try or ever really want to use, because it just lets you know if you get into a spinning rut, it's always fun to try one of these to just get you out of your funk. So that's my big project this week, is I'll finish this off. And then don't know what we're going to do next week. I have not decided yet. I'm probably going to do some weaving. I haven't done that in a while, and I'm thinking houndstooth, which I will let you guys know in advance. I always call herringbone. I don't know why I do that. This mistake makes no sense to the average person, but for some reason in my brain, it makes perfect sense to call houndstooth herringbone. So if you want to see me mess that up a bunch of times, please come to next week's meeting. It's going to be fun. But yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do, is probably something with weaving, just because I haven't done that in a while, and we are a fiber group and not just spinning or just working with raw roving, because we did the soaps. So that one should be fun. And you guys do not have to follow along with me if you don't want to. We can just talk fiber, and I'd love to hear what projects you guys choose to work on, or if you decide to follow the project that I'm doing, please share pictures with me. I love to see them. I love the idea of us kind of supporting each other in our crafting and that kind of thing. I think with us all being a little out of the loop right now, it does help to find support of other people who are like-minded. So please feel free to share. I'd love to hear it. If you're working on something else and you want to drop it in the chat and share with us what you're working on, I'd love to hear that as well. I obviously am working on this. I lost my train of thought, sorry. Let me get some water here. Yeah, this new setup was so that you guys would have a better image on the front of my wheel while I could still talk to you, because I don't like the idea of you not being able to see my face while I'm talking. I don't know why, it's just weird to me. But it also means my setup is all kind of behind me. So it's a little awkward today, but I think it gave you guys a better image to be able to see where the secondary fiber is feeding through, and just kind of look at how it works. So, and it does wrap, it will wrap sometimes, you'll it will sometimes start wrapping very evenly. And again, all you have to do is adjust your speed, adjust how much fiber you're letting through your guiding hand there in the front, and that's going to just kind of knock it out of that rhythm, and you'll get a new rhythm out of it. And that's really what you want with an auto wrap, unlike doing a basic barber pole ply, where you want to see that twist become even, and it always looks so, when you find that one sweet spot on the yarn where you're like, this is perfect barber pole, it's all evenly spaced and just gorgeous. This is not that. This is the crazy harebrained version of that. So it's going to be different. Oh, one other thing I did not mention at the beginning is because, and it may be obvious, but just in case, I did mention that you could use thread. You could use a mill spun something that would already be balanced. And that's fine because you're not going to it's not adding balance to your yarn the way you're spinning and the intent of the spin. And that's obvious in the fact that we don't care how it wraps onto the single. It could wrap really thick in one place, really thin in another place. It could be funky, it could be hanging off, it could be doing all of these things. And that's because your spinning of the single is what's creating the structure. The secondary fiber is an adornment to that single. So because of that, it does not matter if it was S or Z spun, if it's mill spun and perfectly balanced. It really doesn't matter for the purposes of this particular yarn. Now, does that mean you're going to end up with something that's perfectly balanced at the end? Not really. You probably will have to wet set it, and it might still have just a little bit of that twist that tells you that it's not perfectly balanced, unless you're great at spinning singles, and then you'll be fine. I'm not great at spinning singles. I need that ply, let me tell you. If I can ply it, I can balance it. But if I can't ply it, it can get messy. So from that perspective, you don't have to worry about, oh, well, I spun this one. This one I actually spun backwards, counterclockwise instead of clockwise. For some reason, I don't know why I did that with the soap, but it doesn't matter for this project. So just keep that in mind as you're going through as well, because I would hate for you to look at maybe some super cool variegated thread that you found or that you have laying around and think, oh, but now it's not going to be balanced. It's not technically what I would ply with in under normal circumstances. This is art yarn. It doesn't have to be normal circumstances, so you're fine. I probably mentioned this before too, but I tell my students when they spin a yarn that they're not super happy with, which does happen, you know, when you first start. If we all go back and look at our first yarns, we go, oh my God, why was it so uneven? Why didn't I understand how to pre-draft? You know, things like that. I always tell them, we never say we hate our yarn. We just call it art yarn, because then it's allowed to have a little bit more personality, and whether or not it's even doesn't really matter. And that's true. That's the one thing that I do very, very, very much enjoy about trying this particular spin. With other, like, and I think I've referenced this about 400 times tonight, but we'll just do it again. With something like Beehive, there is a lot to be said for technique with that particular one, because the technique is everything. That's how you get the beehive. That's how you make sure that they are even along your yarn. This is not technique. This is fun creativity with a functional aspect to it. So, and I don't know if you noticed when I stopped a moment ago, but I did have a particularly thick section of silk come through the orifice, and it did get caught on my second hook over here. So I just had to release it. And I noticed it because I stopped feeling the pull on my single, and I started seeing just a little bit of pooling at the orifice when I was trying to feed it through. And so whenever you see that, those are good indicators that you've gotten wrapped up a little bit, and you just have to stop and take a peek at it and fix it. And usually it's a very quick fix. The only time that you might run into some big trouble with that is if your hooks on your bobbin on your flyer are very, very loose. That can absolutely affect when something gets caught on that hook, because when it gets caught on that hook and then you're still drafting and spinning, you might pull and the hook might start to twist, and that could make it wrap around even further. So if your hooks are loose, just make sure that if you have something get hung up on there, that you just take a peek and see where it's wrapped, where it's caught, and you work it out that way versus just assuming it just needs to cut, it's just caught on there and you just need to pull it off the hook. So I hope that made sense. If you have a loose hook, it probably made sense, which the hooks on this flyer are not loose. I'm very, very lucky. They've stayed sturdy in there and everything. The hooks on the Ashford Traditional that I've been working with the past couple months are loose, very, very loose. And that is how I've learned how that can be a frustration and also sometimes a blessing. And so, yeah, if you are dealing with that, just keep it in mind as you go. And look, I'm caught up again because I can see it starts to just kind of grab on, and you can see maybe. All right, so this is where I'm stuck. And so I'm just going to kind of pull it over the hook and then pull it around the hook so that it's ready to go on the bobbin when I start spinning again. And voila, I'm no longer tangled, which only applies to yarn, not my brain. So, but we've had a very nice week, and we've been still watching our Master Pancake Theater. We've been trying to find fun projects to do around the house so we're not bored to tears. And my husband's still working from home, so it's just been, don't know how that happened. It's just been a very peaceful week. Even Rumpus is doing well. I know I've had some people ask how he's doing. Our little foster dog, doing some hospice care for him. We had a little concern on Thursday or Friday of last week where his tumor seemed to have opened up a little bit. I don't want to get gross. We'll just say it opened up a little bit. And we had to call the vet to make sure that everything was okay. And they said, no, it's fine. It's to be expected given his condition. Just monitor it. And we were a little bit worried that we would see him struggle more, or maybe an attitude change in him or anything like that. And for about a day we did. And we were just starting to get concerned. And all of a sudden his personality came back. He perked right back up. And he's been doing great since. So it's just a new thing for us to keep an eye on, but for him, it hasn't slowed him down at all. His new favorite thing is to explore the backyard, which doesn't sound that exciting, I guess, for most people. But for him, it's very exciting because if he's 5 pounds. If he walks to the backyard, like to the back half of our backyard, it's probably like a mile for him. So he's getting his exercise in every day. And he managed to walk all the way around the back of our garage, which it's the first time he's done that. And we've had him now since first or second week in March, I want to say. And it's the first time that he's been brave enough to venture back there. So he's doing really well. And of course, Boomer and Pickles are doing fine. Boomer's getting a little bit frustrated with me because of the ongoing battle between me and the sticker burrs that are in his fur, but that's not his fault. That's the sticker burr's fault. Or at least that's what we tell him. I am not one of those that says my dogs are my kids. It's just not something that I do. But I do talk to my dogs like they're people. And I do. I talk to them like they can understand me. Like, oh, honey, it's okay. This isn't your fault. This is because there's sticker burrs outside and they're growing in the grass and getting stuck in your fur. And then I have to remind myself that none of that meant anything to the dog. He is never going to understand that. He doesn't want to understand that. He wants food, treats, and cuddles, and that's about it. And I had my mom asked me, she said, isn't it hard to talk on a live stream for an hour? And I said, no, I'm used to talking to myself because I talk to my dogs all the time and just expect them to respond to me. So, or listen to me, I guess. They never do. We've had dogs now for 16 years, different dogs. And not once has any of them ever just suddenly understood serious English. They know the basic commands: sit, stay, shake. We're teaching Boomer stay right now. And I don't know if he's extremely self-aware, which I know sounds weird to say about a dog, and I do accept that I'm a crazy dog person, but hear me out. So I always tell him sit, and he does a lay down sit. We didn't teach him that. That was something that his previous evil owners taught him. And so I say sit, and then I say stay, and I hold a treat out as a temptation so that he will stay in the position that he's in until I actually give him the treat. And I don't know if he just knows that he can't say no to a treat or what, but what he'll do is he'll stay in his lay down position, but he starts to turn away from me just a little bit. And he's watching the treat out of the corner of his eye. But it's like, if I don't look at it, I won't be tempted. If I don't look at it, I won't be tempted. Oh, thank God I finally got the treat. And it's so funny to watch him do this because I really think it's a self-awareness of like if you put cake in front of me, I go, if I don't look at the cake, I don't need to eat the cake. I swear that's what he's doing. It's hilarious. And this has been for 3 months now that we've started doing the stay command, and it works. He can stay and not try and go for the treat and not start barking for a good 30 seconds. So it works for him, but he's definitely not going to win any dog competitions because you can see the need because he just keeps turning and you go, stay, and he's like, turns his head like this, like, okay. But as soon as you give him the treat, he wants it. I don't know. It cracks me up every night. So funny. Because our dogs get bedtime snacks and they have to do a trick to get a treat. And so we go through all the tricks that they know, which is not a lot. We do not have the most well-behaved dogs in the world. I'm sorry, but we don't. I love them, but I love them because they're mine. Most people who come to my house do not love them, but we're working on it and they're getting better. So at least they listen to those commands. And if nothing else, they entertain us. We finally got Pickles to learn how to sit. That one was a tough one. He was also, and I've talked about it before, but he was a rescue, and he doesn't always like to be touched. He likes to be pet, but he will not let you touch like his back if he doesn't want it. And so it couldn't be the one way that you can teach a dog to sit is to just give him a little nudge on the behind, and they'll eventually sit down, and then you give them the treat and you say sit and give them the treat, and eventually they'll learn it. Well, that wasn't going to work with Pickles because he wouldn't let us push down on his rear end. And if we tried to, and I'm not talking push, I'm talking nudge. But if we tried to, he would just start barking and kind of snarling at us. Never attacking, just you could tell he was unhappy. So my husband started doing it where he would hold the treat up as high as he could until eventually Pickles would have to lean back so far that it would force him to sit. And then he would get the treat. And we were doing it, and he did really well. It took him a long time, probably about 6 or 8 weeks, to really get a grasp on that's why he was getting the treat when he sat down. But now he knows. And it's so funny because you look at him and you go, sit, and he'll sit, but he sits very delicately, like he's still not quite sure if that's what we want. And so it's just adorable to watch. I could talk about my dogs all day. I think I'm probably boring anybody on here who's not a dog person, to which I apologize, but it's kind of a sorry, not sorry thing because I do love my dogs like crazy. Having all kinds of problems now. Most of these problems are self-inflicted. I drafted this too much, and I let my... This is the problem with silk, is it likes to grab onto itself so much. Whew, there it goes. There. It's still grabbing onto itself. Oh well. We're almost done anyway. And I mean with this ball, so. See, another little hang up there. Mm-hmm. Pull it off and keep going. And y'all have hung in this long. Give me about another minute here, and then I will pull this off and show you what we ended up with. And if you are watching this and thinking, oh, that sounds fun, but I would love to do it while I have someone to help me out, we will be meeting again on Thursday. And I promise not to be under the weather this time. And you are welcome to join then as well. It'll be the same thing, so you can follow along with us and spin. And then if you have questions while you're doing it, you can always just drop into the chat and say, hey, here's what I'm experiencing. This is what I ran into. What do I do now? See. Oh, we are running short on time, so let me pull this off. Pull that off. Let it get onto that bobbin there. And I will pull this off and bring it up to the camera so you can really get a good look at what we've done here. And you will notice it's funky, but it's still functional. And that is what I like about this technique. Okay, hang on. I'm going to hold it still there. Hopefully you guys are seeing. So you can see that the way the silk wrapped around the roving is not even at all. Like you can, whoops, sorry. I know I'm shaking it around so much, but you can see like right here, we don't have a lot of wrap. Right here, we have a very, very, very heavy wrap where you can't even see the roving through it. So it changes all the way through, but it changes in a way that still keeps it attractive, at least in my opinion. Everyone has different opinions when it comes to spinning. And there's absolutely no right or wrong answer to that one, but that's my opinion. So that's why I like doing this particular one, because I think it just looks so fun and funky without being ridiculous. And I'm sorry, I'm looking at the camera trying to make sure, I'm looking at the screen trying to make sure that you guys can actually see what is happening here. So I will post some pictures probably on Friday on my Instagram with the final 2 skeins. I will pull this one off of this bobbin and then do a fresh one on Thursday so that everyone can see how to start. But that is the auto wrap. It's super easy, very fun way to get a funky yarn without having to do a lot to it, and making sure that you end up with something that can definitely function in whatever fiber project you happen to be working on. So thank you so much for joining. I hope you guys all have a great week. Feel free to join us on Thursday at 1 p.m. if you want to try auto wrapping with me, or if you want to just work on another project and be able to get some time away from the kids or work or whatever you have going on at home. So thank you so much. I will see you guys on Thursday, and if not on Thursday, again next Monday night, 7 p.m. And make sure to subscribe to the channel if you want to get notifications when I go live. You can also follow me on Instagram at Spin and Die in Texas, or on my Etsy shop, which is also at Spin and Die in Texas. So have a great week. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.